Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatītam Gaganasadrisham Tattvamasyagilakshyam Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshibhutam Bhavatītam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasishtha, the Utpatti Prakarana, and section that we'll be dealing with is section 60 and onwards. We have just concluded the story of Leela. And at this stage, Sri Rama asks, first just to remind you, story of Leela has given you a unique insight into the illusory nature of the world. All world experience is like a website, www. Who, where, when. All the three are illusions. And a spider has made a web. In that website, every folder can contain another folder. And in the corner of that folder, you can put another folder. Just requires a little bit of space within the screen. And in that little space, million words can be locked there. And then in that folder, you can have another folder. It depends upon how advanced your computer is. You have limitless possibility. So, time-space experience is not the reality. But that's what everyone faces, the world of time, space, causation. All that you remember through your mind. When you were born, how things have happened, what you are expecting, memories of all interactions. But all that, when the soul passes on to another embodiment, all that moves away, dumped. But even while you are within the embodiment, you go to sleep and suddenly another folder opens with time, space, causation. You go through lots of experiences. And that goes on happening during just one night. You can't count sometimes your dreams. But no matter wherever you are, in whatever dream, pain is pain. Adversity is adversity. Calamity is calamity. And it stays until you wake up. So keep that in view. And with that, ultimately what you are being led to understand, that the reality is God, Brahman himself. Brahman is pure consciousness. You are all looking for awareness. Stripped of all these www types. Absolute awareness without the website. The entire website is that touching your computer. It's a big illusion. The blue sky doesn't touch the reality because it doesn't exist. It's an illusion. Mirage water doesn't touch the desert. Not a drop. It's an illusion. All your experiences do not touch you at your deepest core. So how to experience that type of revelation, that I am not moving from folder to folder, but I am behind the entire WWW set. Another way to understand. All illuminations of the sun and all reflected suns are nothing but the sun. And that has to enter within every person. And that's the project of religion, sadhana, spirituality, dharma. Keeping that in view, Sri Vasishtha explains to Rama, a jiva consciousness which flows with intensity and speed, unaffected by the objects of the world, attains moksha. Otherwise, it continues to flow from one embodiment to another, experiencing the long dream of the world process. Lots of insights are put into this simple statement. Jiva consciousness. To understand in a simple way, as Jiva, everyone is a reflected sun. And its goal is to discover I am the sun. Put it in an allegorical way, this reflected sun has to travel higher and higher and higher and face the sun. And the moment faces it, it gets effaced. Because the sun alone is. Now put it more precisely for deep understanding, Gita has presented a unique way of allegorical description, soul's movement to Brahman. That's Uttarayana path, the northern path of the soul's journey. Agnir Jyotiraha Shukla Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vido Jana. In simply one line of a verse, the whole universe has become condensed. That's why it's called universe. It's a unique verse. Now, moving away from humor. Agni. First stage, if you are Jiva consciousness is moving towards realization. First step is Agni, fire. And fire represents Vairagya, dispassion. And dispassion simply implies, say for example, you are dreaming, and suddenly a little streak of insight develops that it is a dream. The moment it develops, what you experience? Detachment. Things that are before you, and your mind was working, how can you get them all into my purse? Now, when that insight has gone, who cares? You don't have to collect things which are illusory. So movement in dispassion itself has stages, and I will explain them. And I have done that before. But that's the first thing. Increasing detachment from world experience. World experience is through your senses, through your mind, through your intellect, through your ego, and through your unconscious. The detachment goes on increasing. Even before you attain the goal of detachment, your mind becomes fully convinced of that process and steps on the path, ascending path. And that's characterized by now fire has started within you. Otherwise, you are just a dull candle without the flame. Once the flame has started, fire. Next thing, now you have the possibility to see the distinction, difference between the real and the unreal. What you are detaching from is unreal. And what you are attaching to is real. Another point you are not attaching to, it's already there. Just like if your room is dark, you have two problems in your mind. Remove the darkness and bring the light. But you do only one effort, open the window. Just bring the light. And darkness, removing the darkness, that's not a problem. In other words, the process is sahaj, spontaneous, just like the things grow in a tree. Agni Jyoti. Vivek Buddhi, Vivek begins to increase in your personality. It allows you to see yourself within an objective way. If you are suffering, you are very perplexed. But if you have Vivek increasing within you, then as if you are watching, and then you have a little hole within yourself to find out what the cause behind this. If you don't have the Vivek, then you are simply dumped into it, gripped by it. The Vivek allows you a little objectivity. You go beyond the problem and begin to find automatically. All that happens in a profound way. You don't have to work hard with your mind. Automatically. And that goes on in happening, and ultimately your ideal Vivek is to have a perfect clarity of understanding that self, Brahman alone is real. The sun is the reality. All its illuminations are like mirage, like illusions. So instead of holding on to going after illusions, discover I am the sun. So that type of distinction between self and not self, that could Vivek. And as I said, it's progressive movement. Third point, aha. Aha terms, and things go on going. The expression, aha. Aha. And that's the name given to daytime. The deity of the day is called aha. Which means every day is viewed by you as a purposeful day. And you don't make any distinction. Like, let me wait for Krishna Janamastami. Let me for the New Year day. You wait for the Christmas day. All those are important. They have been designed by sages to, just like children are given teaching in a subtle manner. So you are given the idea of certain day can be so important. You shed all your anxiety and just get involved with that day and its celebration. But that's what you are being introduced to. Why shouldn't any day be that type of celebration? And why should it be a big celebration where you get so lost and it takes you time to recover? Why should every day be a day of a delightful progress, a day of nourishment? So that type of movement comes when you begin to practice integral yoga in daily life. That means you understand yoga not simply for the head. Head yoga is jnana yoga, to understand what is real. Heart yoga is bhakti yoga, devotion. And the devotion has extension, dhyana, meditation. And the hand yoga, karma, action. Your hand, your heart, your head, and put the neck in between. All these four must be coordinated, harmonized, so daily you can walk in a nice way. And God has provided a wonderful situation for your entertaining walk. That's called. So 3 stages. Vairagya goes on developing. Viveka goes on developing. Every day becomes purposeful. You don't feel that you're just wasting time and waiting for a calamity and living in as well a complete vacuum. Rather, every day gives you a sense of recovery. Suppose you have been in a sick state, and then you suddenly begin to discover a feeling of recovery day by day, then your life becomes joyous. You don't sit back and go on remembering all the pain you suffer. No, the joy of recovery shuts out all the pain. And even though you have not recovered enough, you are joyous. This is a simple experience. You must realize the same occurs in a much more intensive way if you have deeper spiritual involvement. If these 3 continue, now opens another chapter, bhavana, feeling, described as Shukla Paksha, bright half of the month, where the moon goes on waxing, not ordinary wax, it goes on increasing. And the moon becomes full moon. What a change occurs in the sky. Dark and gloomy and cloudy. When the moon starts, many stars begin to twinkle better. And you see the difference between the moon and all those countless stars. Your feelings are not just twinkling like stars, shining up the moon. It's a big difference. And the moon goes on increasing. All allegorical. That's the only way profound teaching can be conveyed to the masses. And as this bhavana, feeling within you, becomes highly purified, and your heart goes on expanding. Rather, the moon of divine love goes on waxing. Then your life experience is always in a little confinement. You are confined to your mind, your intellect, your ego, your body, your samskaras. So you are living in a little circle. Now bhavana has started. It works like an erupting volcano. It's joking. Try to understand. Now the surrounding limitation, the circle begins to expand. Your consciousness now is not confined only to the worries of the past, planning for the future, and dumped by all miseries of the world, and lots of fights and burning sensations. Now your consciousness has a different extension. The radius of the circle increases. How much? It goes to infinity. But that goes on increasing. Salamasha, described like day, period of the day goes on increasing with the northern part of the sun. Uttarayana, that's why it is known as Uttarayana. The northern course, which starts from March onwards, every day goes on increasing more and more until there comes the longest day. But that's allegorical. In your study, after that, Uttarayana, Dakshinayana starts. But one who has followed this Uttarayana movement, Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma. Now you are entering into Brahman himself. Brahma Vido Jana. You develop the knowledge of Brahman. I am Brahman. That's the highest knowledge. And therefore, you become absolutely liberated. That's what, when Jiva consciousness flows with intensity and speed, unaffected by the objects of the world, it attains moksha. And I've explained all that implied in it. Otherwise, it continues to flow from one embodiment to another, experiencing the long dream of the world process. Now, the otherwise, that's called Dakshinayana. And what it is, again, according to the Gita, which is the best way it is described, Dhumo Ratri Tatha Krishna Shanamasa Dakshinayanam Tatra Chandramasam Yogi Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate. If you have not followed the spiritual path and it's just stayed with your mind, just with going after the pleasures of the senses, there again, this description is not for the lowest class of people. People who have taken virtuous path, but their mind has not opened to a higher reality. So all they have done is to go on creating good karmas and thereby improving your experience in life. Better than this life, you will have next life. That with that intention is not really secure. You may become better or may default and go worse. And you may go up and down like the rice goes in the kettle as it boils, up and down and ups and down. But even when you are going up and up, that movement is called Dakshinayana. You're going up and up, but not beyond. You are still trapped in the cycle of birth and death. This is much better than the lowest. The lowest one is Yatana Marg, the path of hellish experience. And Gita didn't touch it, just leaves it. Points the finger. Because even this Dakshinayana term is Dhumo Ratri Tatha Krishna. First smoke, then night, and then dark half of the month. And then the period of the day goes on decreasing. Dakshinayana, the southern movement of the sun, until the period of the day will become extremely short. Tatra Chandramasam Jyotir Yogi Prapyani Vartate. Even that movement is accomplished by yogi, not ordinary people. Ordinary people who do not have any type of virtue in their life, they follow yama. At the time of death, the scripture says, this subtle body is trapped by Yama, god of death, and you are led to suffer various intense pain. What I'm trying to give you understanding. And when you think of going to heaven, it's much better than going to hell. But going to heaven, if that remains your ultimate goal, you are still in kindergarten. Grow up. Because just going to heaven, have good enjoyment and come back again in human embodiment, that's not the goal. Attain liberation. Now, what does it imply? This second one, Dhumo. Instead of Vairagya, Agni, fire, last stage of your life becomes full of smoke. Body gets exhausted. Mind has nothing to be vibrant about. Only thing that mind can go on working upon is achieving the cud or eating the vomited stuff. Things that we have already experienced. Miserable situations you experienced before. And now, things are wonderful. The weather is fine. You sit on your armchair. I remember, old time. That's what Dhomo. Instead of fire, smoke. That's what smoke does. The first movement is mystically optimistic. Optimistic means, simple example, you are given a glass that it's a half water. Optimistic people say, it's water there. I shine up, even though there is only half. It's pessimistic. All empty. Waiting for such a long time. Or what I get? Empty glass. Little water or milk. And that's it. See the difference in these two attitudes. Same situation. But if you have optimistic movement, You do not burden your mind with negative data. You turn to the positive data in your mind. And that movement has a dynamic process because now we are turning to light. And light you don't have to create, it's already. The movement becomes much more spontaneous and more surprising for you, even without your effort. You are sucked into the fire, light. That's an optimistic movement. That's Uttarayana path. Pessimistic movement, you ignore all the good things you have experienced. You are sitting with all the problems. What will happen to my house? What will happen to my money? What is going to, if everything is safe with you, you still will worry. What is going to happen to the world? What will be happening? I won't go into that. The mind has its own way. All this develops like a habit. And in order to change the habit, you have to have great patience. You have to create a positive movement. That should become your nature. But you have to make effort. And in that effort, you should not be sluggish. You should not develop the idea, oh, satsanga, I have done so many. Let me go to Hawaii and have nice food. I'm joking. It should not be ignored what is most important in your life. Bring in daily life, not a sense of too much discipline, then your mind gets agitated, but a sense of harmonious movement. Sadhana movement is actually a spiritual luxury. That's why Buddha called it Bihar. It's the most entertaining thing. So, coming back to just give you the meaning, first smoke, then Ratri, dark night. Aha is dropped out. Your daily, live your day without purpose. Because always looking up for future. Then what happens? Krishna. Instead of having waxing moon, waning moon, whatever bhavana you had feeling, good feeling. Now good feeling becomes a remote. One day you have good feeling, it takes 5 days more to get back to that good feeling. Time passes, it takes a month more to get a good feeling. That's movement, it's waning of feeling. And then this circle of your consciousness, instead of expanding, begins to contract. So now we begin to see things in a very narrow-minded way. And that's the predicament that any intelligent person should prevent. While you have energy, no matter in what age, start becoming alert to live your day with increasing positive association, lifting up your mind, getting away from depressing circumstances, allowing your mind to be engaged in something purposeful. And satsanga is always very relaxing and inspiring. And in Hindu culture, all the scriptures are so entertaining. You go into any and just try to find out who was the mother of Hanuman. It's a rather entertaining way of allowing your mind to develop devotion. When the soul moves towards Brahman, It's a movement towards the truth. But when the soul continues to roam in the world process, it is movement from falsehood to falsehood. The movement towards truth is more powerful than the movement towards falsehood. Simple understanding. Movement towards enlightenment, movement towards attaining liberation, put it in more easy understanding, movement towards betterment of your personality, integration of your personality. That movement brings you comfort and joy in your daily life. It is easier to have that movement than moving into miserable condition. Moving into miserable condition, you are constantly being pressured. And as if you are being taken away from oxygen atmosphere to where there is no oxygen at all. In other words, if you maintain yourself in a stage of moving from one life to another, all your movement will be filled with intense effort on your part. Every little thing you earn, you have to work very hard, and end result, you suffer from despair. All that you do, it doesn't give you satisfaction. And what if it does give you satisfaction? If it does give you satisfaction, certain good karma can allow you to be prosperous for a longer duration. But understand that longer duration is again just a duration. After that duration passes, you are again coming back to most miserable situations. So unless you hold a mind that is a kid mind, this is not a good pursuit. You are led from falsehood to falsehood. The movement towards truth is more powerful. The mighty spiritual movement overcomes all little movements in life, just as a mighty river overcomes the small streams and continues to flow on to the ocean of the self. Sri Rama asked, O sage, it's indeed a wonder that even though the ego has no reality, yet it has brought about one's identification with the body. And though the world is illusory, yet it appears real. A vast world can exist in an atom, and a long duration of time can be experienced in few minutes. Please explain these points so that the fact of the illusoriness of the objects will be deeply impressed on my intellect. In other words, what Rama is pointing out, O sage, continue so that I can practice abhyasa. Rama has understood, but that understanding has to go deeper and deeper. Gada parinyaya. Go on hammering, O sage, until it becomes unshakable conviction. It's like you hammer a nail, and then you shake the nail. If the nail is still shaky, hammer again. And once it doesn't shake, hammering stops. So as long as your mind needs to be hammered until you have completely understood and assimilated the teaching, teaching must continue. Swadhyaya must continue in your life. And it has many ways to do it. Swadhyaya, you can study at your home, take a scripture. Swadhyaya, when you are listening to satsanga, what you have studied, you get more deeper understanding in a broad atmosphere of satsanga. Swadhyaya, guided by spiritual preceptor. Swadhyaya, when you share your knowledge with others. Sometimes when you start sharing, you become more alert. And you learn more when you share it. And that's the subtle secret of knowledge. If you want knowledge all for yourself, and you don't look at anybody, just I want to attain liberation, it will never happen. Your ego will fool you. It will tell you have attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And will stay dull-wit. But when you begin to share the knowledge that you have grasped by your intellect, that knowledge becomes to wake, develops a kind of vitality, and it touches your heart. When you see what you have learned is touching the heart of others, the same teaching now touches your heart in a more profound way. It's called Jnana Yajna. And in a very broad way, any good deed that you do allows your heart to relax more and become more magnanimous. So all this comes under Swadhyaya. Swa is the self. All that you learn is its chapter by chapter, Adhyaya. And the whole world is providing you with all these scripts for you to study. Shiva Shisha said, the knower within every human being sees all its illusions within itself. This knowing principle is the self. All that is known is essentially the self. That self is Brahman, the unborn. That alone exists. This world is illusory and false. If making it more suspenseful. Again, how to bring this greatest truth. Truth is said very easily in Vedanta. Brahma Satyam Jaganamithya. Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. Brahman alone is real, the world is illusory. The soul within you is nothing but Brahman. Finished. But to gain that knowledge, the teaching is given from various angles to match up with your mental doubts, to allow your mind to assimilate the teaching. And that again has its own process, which means, remember, there are 4 stages of sadhana: listening, shravana. How much can you listen? That will depend upon how much muck you have removed from your ears. The more purified, the more harmonized you are in your personality, the more you will be touched by a revelation of higher truths brought to you by words, by statements. You'll be touched by them. So Shravana leads to Manana. Now we begin to assimilate the teaching, the process of assimilation. That leads to Nididhyasana. Mind sheds its all distractions and goes after what is the reality. Where is the eye of the bird? Following the Mahabharata, the illustration. And Dronacharya tests the archery, who is the best among his students. And the students come and he asks, do you see the target? Oh yes, I see you, I see the tree, I see the bird. Dronacharya says, you are not. You failed in your oral examination. One after another they come. When Arjuna comes, and he asks, do you see me? Arjuna says, no. Do you see all Bhishma and great people around here? Do you want to seek their blessings? He said, no. I'm joking also. Do you see the tree? No. Do you see the bird? No. Now all people laugh at Arjuna. They're such a stupid one. He will fail definitely. What do you see? I see nothing but the eye of that bird. And Dronacharya says, shoot. And he shoots. And he proves himself the greatest archer. That's the description of Nididhyasana. In this mind, in this vast world, what should you shoot? Truth. So your mind should not go on seeing so many things. Don't go after so many illuminations of the sun. Go after the sun. Behind all illuminations, the reality is the sun. And that Nididhyasana leads you to Sakshatkar, realization. Every form of knowledge or awareness, whether arising on the basis of words or of their meanings, is essentially the self. It is due to the limitations imposed by the objects. Objects imply all that you experience through your senses, through your mind, through your intellect, through your ego. In this context, all are objects. They are objective. And you are experiencing through your intellect, through your ego. And all this is nothing but the self. Even your intellect, ego, mind, and senses, they are nothing but the self. Shouldn't be difficult to understand. In dream, all you experience your body, you experience your head, you experience your headache. You use your fingers, you use your toes. You see your enemies, you see your friends. And all that is your own consciousness. Consciousness is the rope. All this is a snake on it. Sneaked into your consciousness. One moon seems to become many by reflecting in numerous lakes and ponds. Golden ornaments are not different from gold. Different illustrations. Look at the golden ornaments. From higher point of view, they are just nothing but gold. It doesn't matter which way it has been converted into a bangle or into a ring or into some type of ornament. It can be 1,000 ways gold can be fashioned. But it is nothing but gold. Similarly, it is Brahman, the Absolute, that has become fashioned into countless experiences. Through your nose, he has become smell. Through your ears, Brahman has become words. Through your mind, Brahman has become all imaginations. Ghostly imaginations, divine imaginations, all the vast explosion of website. Brahman has become all. However, one should not interpret this to mean that Brahman is the world. When we say all this is Brahman, it's meant to negate all this to realize Brahman. Not to go after all this, because they have all come from Brahman. So, forget about Brahman, all this is also Brahman. It's a foxy interpretation. Not so. Follow only the one example. Snake on the rope, not rope on the snake. This world cannot be taken literally as Brahman. When the illusion of Maya is removed, the world vanishes from one's view, revealing its true adhishthan, true basis, Brahman, the absolute self. And with this I will conclude. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti